Go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, Malena, David, Tammy. Those of you who are watching today, you are in for an amazing treat. Just to kind of give you a little reference, my name is Janet Uribe. I'm an intuitive. I am an intuitive teacher, most of all, but I was recently on a collaboration with Malena Rodriguez, who is also an intuitive guide and card reader and healer, and David, who is a mentee of both mine and of Tammy's. And we were just talking some stuff up about Tammy and about how much she has completely transformed, jacked up, turned our lives upside down, sideways, next door, under the table. You don't even know where the hell you're going to be next. And and yeah, a roller coaster. But when you think the roller coaster, the ups and downs, but the part that you don't think about is that this goddamn roller coaster can take you across the freaking Grand Canyon. And a lot of times we find ourselves in those predicaments of, oh crap, I'm stuck and I really don't like being here. And I was, out of all of us, I was the first one to actually hire Tammy. To be quite honest, I was so surprised by what happened. I didn't call her for months.
I didn't know that.
I did not know how to integrate my new life. And when I called her up, I was so glad when I came back to her because she helped me integrate. So basically, Tammy saw us doing a live where we were talking about the importance of mentorship and how it can totally transform you. However, when Tammy met up with us later on, she's like, I'd love to meet with you guys. It created this whole other opportunity for us to talk about the difference between working with a mentor who is actually an intercessor, a guide who can pinpoint your blind spots without having to talk it out for the next several hours or months, like you would in therapy.
Or years.
Or years. Yeah, or years. And then before I knew it, I had this whole catalyzing train of family members, friends, Malena, David, also signing on with Tammy. And the best part was right after their first session, they all said, dang, what was that? What was that? Malena and I always say 15 years of therapy in 1 hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, friends, so we're going to go into this a little bit, but basically, and we're going to ask Tammy a lot of questions to help help us learn where it is that she really does. Because the thing is, friends, you can hire a coach, you can hire a mentor, you can hire a guide, you can hire a psychic or a medium, but there are not many who can merge all of it into one holistically and help you integrate it. All right. So Tammy, with that, again, Malena Rodriguez, David Feltes, my cosmic poet, we welcome you, and please help us out, friend. Take the floor. I know you will never be at a loss for words because you are the constant channel.
Thank you so much. And I just want to tell you that I was in Wadi Rum when I finally got a minute to myself. I was with another client in Jordan and Egypt when I finally got a minute to sit and watch that, and I just cried. And I'll tell you why, and I'm starting to get emotional again. It is very hard to describe exactly the inclusion of every single thing that I do. I mean, David, you mentioned even on that video that I'm doing a technique that I had never heard of before. I've heard people tell me I do Russian techniques, I do Chinese rec techniques, I do shamanistic things. I don't have that training. I haven't gone to and had my own mentor, which was actually very distressing and upsetting. And I used to fight and shake my fist at the non-physical and say, why don't you give me? Why don't you give me a Tammy? I know what I do for other people, but I need some help too. And every single time I heard this innate wisdom, we don't want you to get it the normal way. We want you to get it direct. We want your training direct with the non-physical, because what you're going to do is you're going to prove, you're going to learn more doing it the hard way by yourself with the contact with the non-physical. At least I had that ability. And then when you share this with other people and you are mentoring and you are doing sessions, then it is going to be so pure that you are going to guide them to that mindset, that thought process, that elevation, that quick space that you had to do it, which was the long way. So I had a best friend at the time that I was complaining, and guys, most of this I was saying while I was living the writing of the book, The Inmate and the Medium. And I would complain from time to time to my best friend, Robin. And she finally said to me, when I completed that, she said, you have become the mentor that you always wanted for yourself and for others. So that's a really good point, I think, is that when you are looking at hiring someone, I would petition you to find the person that not only knows the spiritual laws and the spiritual principles, but embodies them. They have proven them. And the energy in a being like that has gone before and has actually done that kind of work. There's not only the teachings, but there's the physical evidence. And then there's the emotional connection, a degree of wholeness that is really hard to find when a lot of mediums and a lot of spiritual teachers will say, well, I teach you this concept, but I don't know how to get you there. This is why a lot of spiritual teachers are not making the connections or interceding for people, because they haven't done that, or you'll hear them say, I don't get messages for myself. Run. I'm just going to tell you, run, because if they can't use their abilities for themselves, and I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying, according to the level of where you want to go is who you hire as a mentor or an intuitive or a medium or a psychic. A psychic is already a medium. So do you guys want to add something to that?
I would love to. Malena, you always bring up really good topics. Out of all of us, you are so studious.
I know. I've always been on the hunt and trying to learn, and truly I always loved school, and I've always gone in head first in whatever new thing. I guess now I understand intuitively. I've been guided to understand, learn, and know. And Tammy, one thing that you really helped to bring home was this idea of doing the work and the integration, because I could be elbow deep in so many books with the philosophies and reading from all of these amazing spiritual teachers who from a previous conversation we've had, that was their gift to the world, is to bring these ideas, but it does end there. And what you helped me so masterfully in such a short period of time was the integration, and to really understand doing the work and cutting my time in therapy or with like other teachers in a way of like really getting to the source, because there were so many sessions, Tammy. I was like, all right, this is what I'm bringing up today. This is what's going on. And within 5 minutes, it was a whole 180. Like, actually, tell me about this. And I'm like, damn, I haven't even thought about that. And I was like, well, we just start talking. And then by the end of it, you're showing me how it all connected. So your ability to extract things that I don't even know if I want to go there this early, but our ego or whatever is trying to suppress and keep hidden for so long, to avoid that, to kind of ease into it. It's just the train is going full speed and we're just going. And so maybe you could talk about that, or somebody else can talk about just what that integration process is like. Unreal.
Yeah, because when you say the word integration, I'm not sure many people understand what that means. So if the three of you can actually share that so that you would understand the importance of it.
Yeah, so from what I understand, the integration takes place, in all aspects, the spiritual, emotional, and the physical. And it starts when you make the choice and the decision, which is what I've learned from you, Tammy. Very grateful for this information because it makes sense. But our thoughts are actual physical entities. And Will Smith talks about this in some of his motivational speeches, where he was able to be, an actor, a comedian, a hip hop artist, because he wanted it so bad. He thought about it, and his thoughts, he said, were physically changing the universe just by conceiving that. So from what I understand, the integration starts when we do come up with the thought, and then everything is connected. So if your energy is connected up in the material in your head and your brain, then that material is actually going to have to be connected to your physical body, your actual cells, with that integration. So when a change occurs, when you're making that decision, it's setting off this giant catalyst or trigger where every single cell has to respond to that just based on the laws of this reality. I don't necessarily know how it works exactly, but it's just something that happens. So the integration takes place when your body's trying to catch up with the emotional and the spiritual aspect of that decision. And I think that's what Malena is referring to. The integration can be extensive. It can take, it can take weeks, it can take days. You can integrate within a few hours. I've done all three of those since I've been working with Tammy since January. But that integration, literally in the physical, it's your body, it's your cells changing. Your whole self is just changing and adjusting to whatever that decision was that you made mentally. And it's really interesting because it's really hard to pinpoint exactly how it works, but maybe Tammy could elaborate on that. All I know is that it's really happening, and that it is part of our journey, is that integration, moving from one place to the other, and the process that happens, in between. And I'm not sure if that really explains it well, but that's just the best I could kind of do.
You're on to something. Janet.
I'll relate to that, friends, both of y'all. I've done life transformation a few times with my friend Tammy, and holy hell, you are going through integration in lifetime. And I mean, during my first life transformation, I had alopecia. I don't know if you remember that, Tammy. And we really were able to pinpoint when my alopecia came, because I had some trauma around my hair being pulled when I was a little kid, pulled out the tub, pulled out the pool, pulled for making bad choices. And I had some significant self-worth issues. And it was incredible because I can remember the night that I went to bed having the epiphany. And then 2 days later, I had peach fuzz. And when I was watching the actual integration of my hair coming in, the physical reality changing, live Tom, sorry, girl. Mm-hmm. It was just amazing. And I just knew that, how do people not know about Tammy? I just knew that there was more to learn and more to come back for. And every time I have left you and I come back, and because it's a lot, guys, life transformation is the huge leap. It is the integrated quantum leap across that Grand Canyon. And when you get to the other side, you kind of have to adjust a little bit. I think I have a good week of downtime, or two. Last time it was like a month. It took me a month to integrate it all because it was so much information. But I can remember the moment that month-ish mark hit. I woke up the next day and I was like, I'm gonna write a book. But I had made the decision from that spiritual knowing. The psychology of the mind had been programmed that I couldn't, and it had to be reprogrammed, right? Unlearning, I'll tell you, unlearning. And then all of a sudden, that divine inspiration in the physical reality of my fingers were not going to resist that need to honor who the hell I am. And I was in denial about it, just absolute denial. So the integration looks like so much. It looks like the integrating the spirit of what was planned, what you contracted for, who you want to be, the mind that has a fake identity, that has misbeliefs, limited perceptions, and then the physical reality, which is avoidance doesn't work. You got to move your ass.
So yeah. Would you say that it's taking the spiritual laws, spiritual decisions based on that clarity, based on the truth that I reveal, that is details? Like, you think you're coming to me for one thing, but I know that there's 5 things, or there's 10 things, or there's 20 things, and I can see the stacking up of the progression of the entire life to get you to this juncture. So what I look at when I'm looking at clients is how brave you are to be in this space, to hire someone that you cannot hide from, you cannot hide the truth from, And you are bravely putting yourselves in front of an intuitive that can read your subconscious, that can read your contracts, that can read your curriculum, that can read the energy and the thoughts going on in your body. So sometimes when I say things to clients, they'll tell me something and I'll go, okay, listen to me very carefully. And I'll go, bullshit. And they'll start laughing. Or I'll say, you wanna try that again?
Oh God, have I heard that?
you wanna try that again? So what you're saying is, I think part of the integration is that we have this fake identity, and this is how we stand, and this is how we act, and this is what we do, and this is what we believe, and this is what we've been taught, and this is how we behave, and this is what our hair looks like, and this is what everything looks like. This is what my relationship with money is. This is what my relationship with everything is. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, I see all that. And then I see the true you. I see the real you. I see the powerful you. I see the both. I see the disempowered and I see the power. So I think part of that integration is information, it's truth, it's clarity, it's understanding that we have to stop that process of just looking for the spiritual that feels good, almost like a drug for some people.
Yeah.
And actually dig into what is the root of this? What is the stages? What's the steps to my healing? Healing the mind. A Course in Miracles says that only the mind is sick, only the mind needs to be healed. You're also talking about, Malena, and I'm just being intuitive here. You're talking about some of the signs of the integration, like you and David were talking about when the molecular cells it's changing. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading that as I'm working with every single person, even if it's on the phone. It doesn't matter if they're in South Africa. It doesn't matter where they live. Spirit's not limited to time, space, reality. So I'm reading the body, I'm reading the mind. Sometimes I'm even telepathically communicating as I'm physically communicating, saying, what is behind this? I'm asking you questions. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, you're not going there. Why? I will let you not go there. I'll be respectful, but you hired me for this. So I will approach something, and if somebody puts up a hand, I'll go, yes, namaste. The highest good in me sees the highest good in you, and I will pull back out, and then I'll approach it again, either a week later, minutes later, months later, when I'm working with clients. So the integration of the consistent changes, when you get this kind of truth, when you get this kind of clarity, when you go, oh my God, now I understand why I have been in pain my entire life. It all makes sense to me now. That becomes your freedom. That's your introduction to freedom. Then the integration is taking the steps to catch up what's just happened in the spiritual, where you got set free from prison, because we're all like living in these self-imposed prisons. And then you integrate the principles and you start the integration of changing the mind, which makes the physical obey. It doesn't have a choice. The physical has no choice when that is done. And that's why I think, Janet, you mentioned something about, hiring somebody that has certain abilities. If you want to move in a certain way, hire this person. If you want to move in a certain way, hire this person. But start to pay attention to your own inner guidance system as to what really resonates. One of the things that I've found is that all of my clients pretty much are older souls, and you all have a lot of commonalities. And one of them is that you will go to spiritual teachers or try to read books and it's never enough. It's never enough, but something's missing, and you wonder if it's you that's wrong. Guys, I was in the same shape. I was like this sponge. And I remember when Spirit said to me one day, Tammy, can we send you to hear a bunch of mediums speak? And I'm like, yes, you're finally listening to me. You're going to give me the mentor. This is great. And every single time I went, these mediums would pick me to give messages to, and they were so far off, and these people were famous. And I'm sitting there going, why did you, I thought I was here to be the student. And then I heard after like 5 or 6 meetings that I went to where these people are world famous and they're giving me these really inaccurate messages. And I'm upset because I'm like, what's the point of this? And they said, you're further along than you think. Would you just stop hiding and just be you? So see, I've been through the same processes that I am working with the 3 of you and my other clients. What's the truth? What's the truth about you? That truth wants you and you want it. And what is cool is that when you share that truth, it resonates.
Yeah.
And even if you don't understand it, because Janet, you cuss a lot, you're hilarious in that way because you're such a petite little small thing, but you got the mouth of a sailor. And I'm just going to quote you, okay? You have just mind fucked me.
Girl, I think it sounds like B. What the actual fuck? My whole fucking mind is blown.
Yes. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, well, when she gets it together, we'll proceed.
And you can't unknow it once you
There's no
know.
turning back.
For
Isn't
sure.
that great though?
Absolutely. And being the person I am, I'm the type of individual who's kind of like, over analytical or kind of a nerd or always looking at information. I could go on for a long time about what Tammy's done for me personally, but I kind of wanted to ask you some questions so you could explain to viewers who are watching this, like what you're actually doing when you're going through this. Because, for example, when you're working with someone, right? You said you got like 20 things stacked up and you have all this information. Like, could you kind of tell the viewers, like, what is it that you're actually doing and breaking it down for them so you can explain to them why you would be a lot different than another type of mentor, another guru, anyone, why you are who you are? Could you kind of walk, people through that in a sense?
Because I've had to do the work myself. So what is interesting is that once you do this work, then your awareness and your abilities just start opening up and you're like, holy shit, what is that? Wait, what, I don't even know what it is that I did. I don't understand it. What is that going to do to my life? I went through that entire process. But I learned at a very early age, David, that every single thing that was happening in my life was a step process in the intentional spiritual journey. So even when something was happening and I had a dog that was my dog, there were 3 dogs. One had bad health, came inside the house. The other 2 were in the kennel, went on vacation, came back, and my dog looked emaciated. And I took her to the vet and he said, there's another dog in the kennel that's decided she's going to starve to death. And I was like, what? I didn't know animals would do this to each other. Yep, the other one's jealous of Katie and has decided she deserves to die. And you can nurse Katie back to health. So I did. I used a baster, turkey baster, and was feeding broth, and then finally got her eating bologna, which she loved, and then put her back outside, and she started going down again into starvation. And so when I took her to the vet the second time, he said, she's not going to make it, Tammy. You would do well just to let her go. He said, once this gets in the psyche of an animal, that animal will go back to that trigger, just like human beings do. We will keep repeating the behavior. And so knowing that I had to put her to sleep because I knew that she was going to repeat this pattern, and it was ill-fated of me and disrespectful of me not to honor her decision as an animal that she wanted to go, that for some reason she had decided she was done. So I went home and I told my husband and my kids, I said, I got to get away. I got to get away. I'll be back. I don't know how long, but I need to go somewhere. And all I simply did was got in my car and went a block and a half away in a park. And I'm sitting there, it's night, nobody else is around. And I said, what is this about? And this is in my early 20s, I mean, late 20s. I knew how this worked already. And I said, what is this about? And all of a sudden, I heard, it's about Donna. Donna was my best friend that died in between the 7th and the 8th grade. And I never got over it. And there were a few components that were so difficult for me. For one, she's the only friend that I ever had that stood up to me and knew what some of my family members were doing to me and said, they're not going to take me from you. She also started looking like she was from a concentration camp, emaciated. She was so loving and sweet that the doctors could not figure out at Emory what was happening to her. One of them even gave her a real diamond ring as an incentive to get her to live. And I went to visit her at Emory, and in the 7th grade, she picks a lily from that little garden and says, I'm dying. I never knew how to deal with that. So that pain I'm seeing again in my dog. And in the last few months of her life, her family would not let me be around her, which was very painful. So I knew Donna's going under, and I knew she looked so bad the last time I saw her. I never really got to grieve. So when that came forward, that root cause, which by that time I was asking, what's the root of this? Because this dog disintegrating in front of my eyes is triggering something so painful in me. I don't know how to deal with this. So when that came forward, I stayed in the car until I was healed. And I talked to Donna and I forgave her for leaving. And I asked her to forgive me for not ever really grieving over her. Those things, David, and experiencing those things is the layering that I was speaking about earlier, where you don't even know that there's something clogged in the chain. Now, to describe what it is that I do, I've asked God about that many times. And then one day, all of a sudden, I'm on the phone with somebody and whoosh, this entire download came and I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. And it was like, I knew everything about these people. And I'm like, okay, which thing do I talk about? So I used to argue also with your gods. I've been through many processes where I would have a God standing in front of me saying, say it this way, say the F word. And I'm like, I'm not cussing. I don't care what you say. I'm not saying that word. I'm going to say this, or give me something else, or remind me of this. Sometimes I would even stop people early on when I'm doing sessions and saying, give me a second, shut up, leave me alone. I'm trying to get this out of my mouth. So, I mean, I've been in this place of really positioning and learning how to collaborate my needs, my physical needs, my emotional needs, to a very refined thing now, where I may know, David, when you talk about something, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to deal with that in the future. I don't know how fast you're going to get there, but I know we're going to deal with it. I may know steps by step. I may only know one thing. I know that there's been times when I didn't realize that somebody's life needed to be saved, and they were starving themselves, and they would not let me get off the point. No, stay here. No, stay here. No, stay here. It's frustrating sometimes when you're getting this information, but I've learned how to assimilate the information and the layers. I don't get it all at the same time. I know how it works, but it's like, you set an intention to meet with me. I set a commitment that I am all yours during that time frame. Janet knows how this works in the transformation programs. I mean, you got me from breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's a lot. I may even say we're doing a facial. I may say we're going to this restaurant because something's going to happen there. It's a constant thing, constant thing of being in that presence, you know, that essence. But I just know now it's easy. I don't fight it. These are all messages for you guys. Stop fighting. I trust it implicitly. You know, I'm already what Janet says. Janet, tell them what you say about me. I just slapped you.
The softest, most loving bitch slap you've ever had in your
And you
whole
saw 2 of them respond because they knew I was talking to them. Stop fighting.
It is the softest, most loving, just there, it's for you.
That's true. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll say, I'm about to be rough on you. Are you okay with that? And they'll say yes. And then I say it and then I just pause because it's important, not that I know it. The work for me is reading your level of intelligence, whether or not you like jokes. I may randomly start singing some kind of jingle or cartoon from your past, but I have learned, because I used to not trust the messages, and that is so demeaning to you as an individual, and starting to just trust it and go, well, you giving this to me, I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. I mean, either this is truth or this is not. And if it's not accurate, you know, I'll quit. So you might better make this real. So I literally did that. And now it's a matter of, you will bring something up. I initiate you speaking. And the reason that I do that is because it's like a dam or an armor or a guard. And once you speak it, that falls down, that energetic block falls down. And then I go, okay, let's go in. Let's go in. Let's do this thing. So with all of these thousands and thousands of clients that I've had now, there's an ease. And I don't even know what I'm going to do in your session. Sometimes I will. Like in transformation programs, I'm laying in bed getting downloads. She's this and this and this, and he's this and this, and this is what you, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Let's do it. I didn't know that about them. So even doing sessions for my sister, it's like, are you kidding me? This happened to you, you know, and I just learned to get over myself and just trust that if it's not real, you know, I'll quit, because I'm an honest person and I have a high code of ethics. Does that answer your question, David?
It does. And that's a great answer. It brings up another question though, just because, you know, like I said, I'm the analytical type. A lot of people are, they're big nerds out there. When you're saying that you're getting these massive amounts of downloads, if you had to try and quantify that, how many pieces of information would you say you're actually receiving from that?
Anything from 2, 5 to thousands, like a computer graph. And there was a point of time whenever God or spirit wants me to learn something, I will have a repetition of it. Like if I need to understand a concept or a truth or a spiritual truth or how human beings operate and how they function and the human psychology, which I didn't study formally, but know a lot about, then I will get a repetition of it with sessions. So I have learned a lot through the sessions that I've done. And a lot of my teachings are based on the spontaneous information that I was allowing to come through me as a channel or somebody that gets this information. If I gave you everything I was reading at one time, I can tell you right now, it would overwhelm you. It overwhelmed me. So when I say that I started regulating it, my team would start laughing and go, that's exactly what we want you to do. We want you to collaborate with us. They want to support us. So now there was a period of time where I used to do all of my sessions with my eyes closed. I'm like, I'm not going to get any information unless I have my eyes closed. And then when I was in the prison system with Phil De Mirza, he said, why are you doing this with your eyes closed at home? Because you're doing it with your eyes open in the prison system. You're doing this work. And I'm like, well, hell, why am I doing that? So I started looking, but I would see the guides. And then one day they started moving over here instead of right in front of me. And I was like, wait, I'm still giving the information, but I'm also having multiple conversations with your team. Now, because of this, what I'm about to tell you, I don't see your team as much anymore unless your team wants to show me what it's like to try to be of service to you. And you're acting like a crippled, and they're doing parading in front of me, acting like they're pushing somebody in a wheelchair, winking at me, or dragging their leg like I'm crippled. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? Well, she's been diagnosed with 15 illnesses. How would you like all that to be healed in this 1 hour? And she was healed of all of them. Janet, you know something about this.
Yeah.
So what happened was the God started moving, and I heard, would you see where we are? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm talking to the client in the room face to face. And I'm like, you move. So I'm not really comfortable with that. And they said, but are you not still giving the information? I went, yeah, okay. So I kept on, and then they kept moving until one day they said, where are we now? And I went, oh, you're beside me. And I literally reached out my hand like, oh, this is the point. I'm supposed to be beside you, and we're walking together and we're holding hands. And the God jerked his hand back and said, no. And I'm like, well, I can't deal with this right now. I'm working with her. And all the time I'm having a physical conversation and giving her information. And then one day, not too long after that, they said, where are we now? And I said, oh, you're behind me. What are you doing? They said, we're only here to support you. You finally stepped up, and you're trusting that the information that you're given is accurate. Can you just walk and you be the lead here and us support you? And I'm like, that's the point. So that's what I'm doing with all of my clients is step up. Be you. Malena, you know that I've actually done this with you without a
So Tammy, this is like a session I'm having with you right now, because like everything you're saying is what I've needed to hear. I'm dying right now because I feel like I'm in session and I'm just listening to your responses with David's questions. And so, yeah, all of that, the trust, and something you've said to me since day one is doing the work for yourself first is like the most important. And I think that just kind of answered a question I was going to ask you of what it means to do the work, is doing it for self. I had it for some reason, I had it separated in a way, that doing the work was like the journaling or like those practical things, which is part of it, but it's also developing the intuition for self, the freedom that you're talking about, releasing the dam, which I've done with you in 2 rounds of mentoringship in other sessions now. So it's it's all coming together even more so for me as you're just discussing this. So this is just amazing.
So I would say doing the work is you get the truth and you get the integration and the understanding, which helps you connect with love. So when I'm sitting in front of somebody and I'm saying, I know that you were raped, and I know that you were raped 3 times, and your rapist is standing in front of me, and that caused this and this and this and this in your life. You don't have to live that way. The fact that a person on this planet, and you're 61 and you've never shared that with a soul, and I'm exposing it in a very loving way. I don't have judgment for the rapist. I'm describing him. I'm describing his hair, how tall he was, where he lived, where she lived, in a state I've never even been in that area. And that it happened 3 times. I told her in between the rapes how long it was. To get that kind of detail means that I'm known. I don't have to carry that guilt, blame, and shame anymore from what was wrong with me, that the guy raped me 3 times. Why didn't I report him the first time? Why did he do it 2 more times? What is wrong with me? She was in massive guilt, and it was affecting every single relationship with the man that she could have. And she didn't have one. And I described her marriage, and I described how long she'd been divorced and what happened in that marriage and what he left her with, the financial burden of it. Why'd you take that on? It's because of the rape. that happened so many years ago. So when you reveal that, it's like we consciously will store things in a closet. I'm going to put this away because I really don't know how to heal it. I don't know how to deal with the fact that I was raped and I've never told anybody at 61. So how would I now open that Pandora's box, deal with all that pain, and figure out how to use that in my life? So when I do that as an intercessor, then I'm meeting you in love, standing right in front of you going, you're in a safe place. You're in a safe place. I've got you right now. You wanted this to come. What I've learned is that I'm communicating with your spirits, not as much your gods. I'm communicating with your spirits and your subconscious, where the shadows are, the secrets are, the hidden reasons that you behave the way that you do, or have the patterns or the curriculum that you do. When you get that clarity, the work is integrating. How do I move from somebody explain this in a way, like I explained to a murderer why he murdered his wife. And he didn't know I was going to go there, but I needed to. And I told him the entire process of what age he met her, what she did for 4.5 years, verbatim what she was saying to him, begging him to kill her, knowing that there was some kind of contract that he would. And once you know that, how do you go from that's not hidden to I'm going to own that as it's not a mistake, it's not an issue, it's part of my curriculum. What can I empower myself with that clarity? That sets you free. And then the work is taking the steps to go from disempowered, normal behavior that you will automatic do. It's a knee-jerk response, it's learned behavior. You'll still go back to that, but you're not the same. Like you said, wisely, you don't forget it, you can't unlearn what the truth is. And that's why I think consistent mentoring is so important, is because as you're going through that process, you've got a hand saying, I know what happened to you 2 nights ago. I know because I was told, or you came to me and you told me, you know, because I'll literally see people's faces and I'll go, what are you doing here? You know, and how can I help you? Especially when I'm working with somebody consistent, and I'll talk to them. And sometimes we'll argue. And then when they come back from vacation, there was a client that I had, and I went, so did you get the massage that you fought me about? And she went, oh my God, you knew about that? I said, I was there. And we were fighting about it. And I don't know if you got it or not, because that's none of my business, but I was there to fight with you as your mentor. And she went, I did. And it changed the whole trip. Something that simple that is just for you. See, the spirit realm knows we're looking at one facet and think, I want that one thing. And spirit's going, well, I'd like to give you 50, but you're fixated on the one thing. We have such a limited, it's like we believe that we're just this little skull, you know, and we have to confine our thoughts to this thing. The work is thinking outside that. And it's hard to do, I can tell you. You can do it because I'm the evidence of it, but it's very hard to do by yourself.
And I think that's why, sorry, just one last thing, David, but I think that's why we all hire you, is the guide. We want to get there fast. So David.
No, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's amazing on how, kind of going back to what we were talking about, you accessing that information and being able to decipher literally a perfect message that's for an individual for exactly what they need to hear right then and there. If you think about that, that is just, it's amazing. It's phenomenal. It's something that you don't really see in your mentors, your gurus, your spiritual leaders, your coaches. They don't do any of that stuff, you know? So it's so fascinating. And I know for me personally, you were able to help me with some growth and some pain that I had to resolve in myself. And I never told you about it, but you were able to pinpoint the age that it happened to me with my parents. And I thought that was so astonishing, because it made me understand you're able to see timelines.
Yes.
And that is something that you can't necessarily get, you know, from a therapist or a counselor, like Janet was saying, unless you've been with them for 20 years. And we're getting that in 1 hour. And that is truly phenomenal. And I was wondering, could you kind of talk about how you're doing that when you're seeing this information? Are you feeling things that are more important to that person's growth, or like, how does that really process within you?
I would say that if you talked to me 10 years ago, I would answer one way. I would say that sometimes it was haphazard for me. I'm like, which thing do I choose? Now it's very refined. Now it's very, very refined. And it's matter of fact, and I'm going in and by God, this is what we're doing. Because of the fact that I deal with people who are on a fast track, who want quantum leaps, who are leaders, came to do big things, feel the pressure of that. You guys are difficult because you're very strong-willed. So if you didn't have a strong-willed mentor that's going, really, because that's not really what's going on. Can we go deeper than that? And pushing you, challenging you to what's behind this, what's behind this. And I'm getting more often to say, it's not important what I know. What's important is that you know it. Because when you know it, you get free. What's coming up, David, is a story before you even started speaking. This is how it works. As you start to speak, it's like I already know energetically what it is that you are wanting to hear, just like I'm ministering to all three of you and collectively, whoever is guided to listen to this. There are facets that are, it's like, if you could see it energetically, it's like lasers shooting constantly. And if I really pay attention, I can see the face of the person that it's for. I've had that happen to me when I was asked, will you move to North Carolina? And then I would open my door and all of a sudden there's that person that I saw when God was saying, she needs you, or she's begging for a teacher, or this one's, I would open the door and physically that person's in front of me. Sometimes I'd tell them, sometimes I wouldn't. But as you start talking, I immediately knew that this story, this illustration, because it arose for me, I knew that you and the other two and the entire audience needs to know this. When you are dealing with somebody that has the capacity that's not just confined in a little small space that the world teaches, this is psychology. This is science. This is what the world, science has never caught up with what's spiritually known. Come on. I mean, they just admitted a few years ago that we have a chakra system, really. So you got to go past this little confined, this is how we do it. My worst clients are professional psychiatrists and psychologists and life coaches and people, because they know enough to get themselves into trouble, but they're in this little bitty tiny box. And I'm going, really? Well, if that's true and what you're saying is true, then why do you have this symptom, this symptom, this symptom? So what happens is I just kind of know, because something eases up for me. And this story is that I was sitting in my den in Florida. There's this beautiful woman sitting in front of me, and I'm looking behind her. I'm looking here. She's here. I'm looking over there. I'm looking here, and I'm looking here in the den. And I said, and all of a sudden I heard one of my team members say, "You're not explaining to her what's going on." And I said, "Maria, can you just give me a minute? Just a minute. There are 3 lifetimes screaming at me. One, you're a man, and the other 2, you're a woman. Would you let me get the information about these 3 lifetimes? I'm going to go to this one first, and then I'm going to bow. And then I'm going to do this one. Once this is finished, I'll bow. And then I'll do this. And then I'll tell you why this is happening." And she's like, "Okay." I know she thought I was crazy, but let me tell you what happened. So the first one is about saving kids in an environment where they're like a priest or something. The other one was actually cleaning water during a war, kids around, trying to save the kids. Third one, same scenario, but a nun. And I said, the third one, the nun, you were a nun in this lifetime. And she broke and she started crying. And I said, so let me ask, you know, I wasn't as easy about getting the information back then. This is probably 14 years ago. But I said, give me a second. Let me just ask, why did you give me this? Why? And they said, she had a son that was born after she left the nunship and she got married. She had a son that was born that they told her would only live 18 months. He lived to be 24. Would you ask her to please let this go? It's enough. She helped that child live from 18 months to 24. Can you lay down the guilt? And so she's talking to me about something else, and I'm doing this thing. And then I still hear sometimes, you're not telling them what's going on, because sometimes what's going on is so real. It's as if the physical being of the person or the thing that is happening, or the God or the master or the, you know, the illustration or the past life is happening in front of me, that I seriously, if I had my way, I'd just stop doing the session and go, I'm going here. This is fascinating. But then I hear, you got to share this. You're not talking about it. And so I'll get back focused to the client. She walked away healed. She was like, you're right. My entire life, I've beat myself up for not saving the children. I said, in this lifetime, you get to lay that down. You did save the child. And all those 3 lifetimes had that in common. So it's like taking that information that was from previous lives, from everything that is known about you. If you can imagine, every joke you've ever heard, every smile that you've ever had, every person's eyes that you ever made contact with, every person that entered a store, same time you entered a store, every single time you had a thought, which is about 60 to 70,000 a day, how many hairs you have on your head at any given time, and you lose about 100 a day. When you think about all of that information that the non-physical knows about you, plus you multiply that times every life, there's an intelligence that we can tap into that we don't have to work to tap into. I had to get out of the way, David, in order to be who I am right now. I had to get rid of the layers of the fake identity. You can't do this, Tammy. But I was doing it. But I still had those doubts. Now it's, we got this. You know, all I do is really sit in front of you guys as a client, as a very innocent child, without a single feeling about you, no judgment, just love, saying, how can I serve you? What do you need today? And it's an humbling position to be in, where there's just pure love for you. So there's no judgment. I had to learn not to judge, because if I have judgment, I can't. Janet, I feel like there's something you need to say.
Oh, there has been. I mean, we don't really have all of the time, friend. Everything you've mentioned today has been a repeat of everything I've ever experienced with you and more. But ultimately, friend, I feel like one thing that we can probably all agree on our end is the more we meet with you, the freer you are, because you bring such a loving presence, non-judgment, and the intelligence that you're tapping into, the intelligence that you're bringing forward for us. You feel so seen, so known, so loved, that you suddenly have no judgment for how you are, what you keep, your secrets, your skeletons. I put some real skeletons in my closet, by the way, guys, it's funny. But you start to feel so free and liberated from all things that you start to want to be authentically self. Yeah. You can't keep it in. You know that source energy, God, universe knows everything. So why the hell are we shoving it in our pockets, sticking it under tables and nooks and crannies, and keeping it as illness in the body and so on? And to me, friend, it's just fascinating, because ultimately I know what you've done for me, and I know that it's completely transformed my life. You know, I know that if I had not met you, I would have been checking out and leaving early. And so thanks to meeting you, I know that it created a completely different trajectory for me.
I'm glad you stayed.
Yeah.
I'm glad I stayed. I wanted to check out. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
It's painful being here, but it becomes a fun game that you play. And it's not like you're playing a game with people's lives, but you've learned the game that we came here to play. And when you're playing it well, it becomes entertaining and fun. And then you're not so caught up in the pain. You're looking at conscious alchemy, which you want me to teach. You know,
Yes, please.
What do you want? What do you want? Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Because I had to learn how to do that. I already knew it, but boy, did the challenges ever get really tough to have to overcome. And I did it.
Yeah.
By the way, knowing that I would teach it later.
To those of you who are out there watching right now, a lot of us have been kind of nudging Tammy a little bit and be like, girl, we're ready for the next level. We're ready for the Alchemy School. Please hook it up. So if y'all are interested, you should email her so that so that maybe we can do it together, because I think that's something else, something that, and that's how this ended up happening, right? Is Malena and David and I, we have our Tammy sessions, and then we're so blown open, just mind fucked to no degree. Just there's everything you know is real, everything you don't know is not real, and like everything you thought was true is false, and everything you thought was false is true, and there's no, the reality is completely different. So we depend on each other. We call each other, we text each other, we chat up with each other when we don't have access to Tammy, because let's face it, Tammy also does not make us dependent.
Yes.
The empowerment.
She empowers us, but you know, we're not done with our training wheels, so we call each other.
Well, that's something that's in my heart, is to give a collective group that's in the same curriculum of learning a certain thing for support. Because the problem is, how many people do you have to talk about these things?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are not hearing this, they're not understanding it, and they're certainly not experiencing it personally. And once you experience it personally, it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. Yeah.
So real. It's so real that, oh my God. Yeah. I've just continued to experience stuff that I'm just kind of blown away by. And the doing the work is a lot easier to do once you've had so much exposure. It's like something happens in your energy field. I'm sure you guys relate to what I'm talking about. There's just some type of magic that happens in your energy field, Tammy, that it just, you expose self in such a liberated way.
Well, I think it's, sorry.
No, go ahead. There's no going back to your shell.
No, I
No.
think it's like, you know, Tammy, you're talking about, we've built these blocks, and then you help find that core to kind of remove it, to like let it all fall. And then as we keep doing the work and we have that freedom and that clarity, that, I mean, I'm sure I have some bigger things coming down the line, but the turnaround time has been a little bit easier. And I say that with caution because I don't want them to ramp it up.
You already just
But-
man.
But it's because I think that freedom, and then the empowerment that you've given me, and the self-worth and all those things that we had to work through in our sessions, it's like I am a totally different human being than I was 6 years ago, than I was a year ago. And definitely
Look
when
the same, by the way. You don't look the same.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
and that's what I feel
Your
too.
physical has changed. Mhm.
So kind of going with David, what he was talking about with the DNA, it's like I'm healthier, I have less illness, I have less pain. And then when things get rough, like I was even talking with Janet earlier today, because it's been a hell of a week when I said yes to doing this. And of course,
Of course.
this morning I was like, I don't even know what's going on, but I know I can do this, you know? But the turnaround time is a little easier because I think now I understand the laws and how it actually works, and this game that we're playing and all of these things that you've taught me and all of us, that it's less scary.
Yeah.
And it was 2 years ago, I felt alone, isolated. No one understood me. I'm just going through the motions. I'm doing what people expect of me. And I wasn't paying attention to self. But when I went to you, I was just lowest I'd ever been, without even knowing it then, you know? And yeah, it's been amazing, Tammy. Right? And it's once you experience and see the things that I've seen and hearing what I hear, yeah, there is no going back, you know? It's the matrix, it's open, you know?
Yeah, there's no going back. And when you try to explain this to people that
Oh
aren't
my
involved
God.
in it, they look at you like, what is wrong with you? Are you trying to start a cult or something? And you're like,
Oh my God, I got the cult thing all the time, but it's
yeah,
gotten easier. It's gotten
I
easier.
got that from my family the other day. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, all right, well, you know what? Why don't you schedule a session with her and like see for yourself and then come afterwards, all right? They're like, how
Right.
much is it? You know, so it's yeah. Kind of like what Malena was saying, it's really hard to use words in the English language or maybe in any language to explain how you feel because it's so unique, it's so original. There's nothing really to compare it to. Some of the experiences, the only thing I can compare it to is altering my state of consciousness with drugs because I was a drug addict before. And it's like, that doesn't really sound good to a lot of people, but it's the truth. So it really is, phenomenal or outstanding or amazing or an anomaly, magical, like Janet said. It really is unique. And I feel like these conversations are going to help people understand that there is something more to what than to what they've been presented in life. And it's interesting because, you'd said this before, when people are ready, they find you. You don't have to go out to them. They're going to find you. And I actually made that choice last October before I'd even met you. I decided I wanted to go to the next level and I was ready for it. And then by chance, Janet, who's my mentor before you, was saying, hey, Tammy's going to be in town in January. Do you want to meet her? And I was like, what? Are you serious? Yes.
Oh my God. And that was my favorite opportunity to be witness to. Obviously, Tammy, people have witnessed my immense transformation, that my mother came to you, my sister-in-law came to you, my best friends got in line and they all now come to you. And I never once pushed you on them. It was literally them being curious, wondering what happened. Who's this mentor that you go to? What? But ultimately, friend, I mean, the changes that I witnessed in Malena and David are undeniable. The changes I witnessed in self, again, no one can compare this to anything. So for those of you who are listening to this dope, amazing interaction today, guys, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're tired of being alone, if you're wondering what the hell is this whole earth place about, I'm over it. People are nuts. People goddamn lost their mind. I want more. If you find that you're hungry, thirsty for something more than the superficiality that you see in your daily life, if you want to improve your relationships, if you want your relationship with you, if you want to discover who the fuck you are,
Yeah.
call Tammy. Okay. Call Tammy. Look her up, TammyDeMirza.com. She will change your mother effing life. Okay.
Yeah. That's an understatement. Or if you feel stuck, I've been doing intense spiritual and personal work for about 4.5, 5 years before I met her, meditating, doing yoga, really questioning myself, reconfiguring the way I thought, my mind, my emotions, everything. And I still felt stuck. I was having the hardest time this last fall. And I knew that there was something I had to do to go to that next level. And this was it. And man, I am beyond grateful that I did that. So even people that have been doing the work, if you get to that point where you're kind of hitting a wall, this really pushes you through it. It really does take you to that next level. And it did for me. And I've been doing the work. I've been doing a lot of it. And you can ask any one of them. I host, groups at Zilker. I'm really big into promoting meditation, mindfulness practices. I'm in the Austin Conscious community, really big into it, and still was stuck because Tammy told me at one point, well, there's more than you can do than just meditation. Okay. It takes
I know. And Tammy, I just remember you constantly telling me, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? And I just was like, I don't understand this. And it took me so many sessions to not even that many sessions really, but our work that we've done together to understand that I am an intuitive, that I do have these abilities, which I love that you always said they're not gifts, they're just abilities. It's not like it was given to you. We are all here. We all have these abilities. Exactly. And it was so covered in muck, and it was so covered and shoved down from my life experiences, and the mentoringship that you showed me. I'm so grateful for, because you just pulled me out of the funk. And yeah, like David was saying, I was just stuck, like super, super stuck and didn't know where else to go. And mentoring, yeah, it's the fast track. It was wonderful. It's
Thank you.
got me
But this
here.
is, you're really talking about you.
Yeah,
When you meet me, you're meeting you.
yeah.
When you're ready to do that work, I just have my hand raised that I'll do it. I'm going to switch this just a bit, and I know you need to go, Malena, but David, I'm feeling your back. I'm feeling your back, and I can describe it verbatim. So I want you to tap into, you mind if I do this live right now? You mind if I do this on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at him, he's like, oh, I got to get in. Okay, so when I do this with David, Malena, I want you to tap into your body, and Janet, I want you to tap into your body, because God doesn't leave anybody out. Okay, so even though I'm dealing with him on his back, I want you to do the exact same process, which means that anybody in the audience, believe it or not, there was somebody that was going blind that heard one of my videos on YouTube, and because I was helping her with seeing, their eyes were healed, and they wrote me about it, spontaneous. So this is not just for one, this is for all, and there's a reason that this is happening. So David, if I were to describe it, it's like I'd say the last 4 minutes or so, I was suddenly tuned in to, on each side of your spine, it's like I want to rub that to get that to calm down. It almost feels like a muscle spasm, but it's not, but it feels tighter.
Right.
And it's not in the lower back, although the pain is coming from the lower back. It's kind of going up the spine, like I'm trying to get out of him, and I don't really know where to go. It's like the physical is like, I'm trying to help you, man, because of the healing that we did on the phone the other day, which got a good deal of this out. So Malena, think about what's going on in your body. Anything that feels the least bit uncomfortable. You know, when I'm in public, and I love the public because I'm reading the whole audience, and when somebody comes in and they've got a headache, I'm like, yep, we're gonna deal with you at some point. And sometimes I'll usually say, I know where your headache is, I know exactly when it started, I know how often you have them. At some point I will call you forward. When you're not scared, I'll call you up here and we will get rid of that together, because it's a collaborative effort. So Janet, for you, it feels like lower abdomen. Okay. Yeah, I'm reading it. So what I want you to do is just tap into that area. You can close your eyes or you can have them open. Tap into that area and just notice it without judgment. Notice what it is that you've been feeling. In your case, David, I'm going to put my hands on that and just kind of push that energy down through. I can already feel it starting to relieve itself at the top. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can feel some movement. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's moving. All I'm doing is put my hands there with an intention, knowing that I can do this because I'm guided, and I'm going to push that energy down. I'm doing it physically. It's down to your waist. And now what I'm going to do is ask it to go down your legs and out your feet. I've opened up your feet chakras, and I'm going to go down. 1, 2, 3. What do you feel? He's kind of shaking. Do you see him kind of shaking a little?
Yeah, I feel less of the sciatic nerve pain in my right leg. Actually, it's pretty much gone. I feel some stimulation in it though.
Yes.
And then my lower back feels a lot looser. It was kind of like you were saying, tight or inflamed from a previous
Well,
injury.
it was doing that, but it was shooting up into these muscles higher on each side of the spine. So all I did was recognize it without judgment, just like I do you guys as clients, knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, nor is there anything missing. So then I just recognized it, had you moved to ease. And then once I knew that you were at ease, gently move it out with my intention. So as this happens, when you start to experience The least little bit of pain, sometimes we'll go, oh God, is it coming back? Did this really happen? Did I felt really good yesterday. Is it coming back again today? I know, Janet, that's been a thing for you. If you just get in with agreement, I just taught you a really, really big principle. Surrender to what is. Stop fighting it. Don't resist it. Notice it. Oh, I see that the body is doing this. And then you say, I don't need the body to do that. And I'll do the work. You got my attention, body, because the body's your servant. Physical is your servant. You got my attention. I'm going to ease that out for the moment. And now I'm going to ask, what is this about? Just like I taught you about my dog, and it was really about losing my best friend that I never got over. And up to that moment in my life, I was having a really hard time finding a friend who was actually loyal to me, like Donna had been. It was like when Donna died, the hope of that, of somebody actually loving me, of knowing me, died with her. And I needed to heal that. So my dog comes up and goes, I'm going to show you this in the physical. I'm going to let you see that process of seeing somebody deteriorate. So once I did that, I went home and I picked Katie up in my arms and I said, I'm going to take you tomorrow. I'm going to let you go, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being my servant, for loving me so much that you did this physical thing in front of me so that I could heal myself. And then the next day I let her go, and we were both at peace. She was like, it was almost like she looked up at me and smiled right before she left, like, it's good, Mom. So it's beautiful. So David, one of the things that I would suggest, and for you other two as well, is to get up and move around and kind of help the cells of the body to move around. Just kind of feel what your legs feel like. Feel what it feels like to stand and hold. For you, Janet, your hands on your abdomen and go, wow, that feels cleaner. That feels clearer. I want to heal this for good, because it's repetitious for you. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys want to say or do before we leave?
TammyDeMirza.com. Hit her up. Best decision of your life. Best decision of mine, I'll tell you that much, all day. Anyone I meet, ask anyone. It's all I talk about now.
Thank God we didn't talk to you too.
You're all really, I love you're coming out of your shells, and it's beautiful that I get to watch it. I feel honored to be in this space with you and to know the three of you. My goodness, you're beautiful. Come out and play with me on the playground. Get on the playground with me.
Careful with what you offer, because I'm gonna be hitting you up.
Yeah, I know.
These all the
I'm gonna be
time.
out there every day, so watch out.
I love it. Let's play. I need some playmates.
Yeah, you have said that before.
I
For
have.
real. Let's do some lives. Let's see each other more often.
That sounds
love
good.
to.
And then we'll let some of the audience actually, start to visit this live and get a taste of this so that yeah, right, she's not real. I've had a lot of people say that, and I just look at them and go, I'll tell you a funny story. I was in a first class. I was working with a cancer patient that was a client of mine. And I kept telling him, you've decided to go. You've decided to go. I don't know why you think I'm here to heal you. I'm here to heal you, but not from that. I'm here to heal you from your past so you can go. Unless you change your mind, you're going. I'm not going to lie about this. And I'm on my way home, and I was sitting in first class, and there was an older gentleman sitting beside me, and he kept trying to read me. You could just tell. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I don't even be disrespectful to other people to read them. I'm not saying anything to him, but I finally, after a little bit of time, said, is there anything interesting in the paper, or are you really just trying to figure me out? And he's like, oh, I'm trying to figure you out. And I said, go for it. He said, what do you do? And I said, I don't think you want to know. Don't ask me a question you don't want to know, because I'll tell you. So what do you do? I said, do you know what an intuitive is? No. Do you know what a medium is? No. So when I told him, he's like, became the antagonistic. Well, what about this? And what about this? And I just looked at him and I said, you're trying to get me riled. You're trying to get me upset. I don't really care if you believe this or not. I could tell you thousands of stories, but I don't owe you that. I said, but I'm going to say something to you that you need right now. He said, what? I said, I can tell you what you had on your toast this morning and how many cups of coffee you had. You're playing with the wrong chick. Now either stop trying to get me riled and have a decent conversation with me, or keep your mouth closed. He started dying laughing. And guess what? He was a CIA manager that had retired. So his training was to read people, and he couldn't read me because I was like, oh, hell no, I'm blocking you from that. You're being disrespectful. You know, so it was just funny. We had the most amazing conversation about presidents and politics and what was going on in America. And he was like, this is the best conversation I've ever had. And I said, yeah, but I had to call you out to get it. He had this arrogant, I'm him. I'm like, no, we're not playing that game. Let's
funny.
go. So
right.
thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Tammy.
you, friend. Thank you. I'm so glad you saw our last thing and agreed to meet with us again. I'm tickled, girl. Thank you.
I was like, just first of all, seeing you three come out, and please tell them where to find that, Malena, because I know it's on your Facebook. So tell them about that so that they can watch that too.
Yeah, our first video we did, you can find it on my Facebook at Align with Malena, and that's MALENA. And that's the same handle for my Facebook, my Instagram, and my website, but the video will be on the Facebook.
Okay.
We can send the link to you, Tammy. Whatever we end up doing with this, we can post that link right under this if someone wants to see what led to this.
Okay, fantastic. What I
Yeah.
was crying about was that you guys were actually explaining, you know, the variances of what it is that I do. But more importantly, I was like, look at her and him come out of hiding and get in an uncomfortable state of speaking your truth and using the physical to get. I was blown away by the three of you. I really was. I can't say that I'm proud because I'm not in that position of being proud, but I'm honored to be in this space with you and to be a part of your journey.
Oh, thank you, friend. You know that's reciprocated, and we're just as thankful for you.
Oh, it's a love fest, isn't it?
Likewise.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Let's do
All
this
right,
again.
friends.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Reach out to Tammy, friends out there. Don't you forget TammyDemirza.com. Change your life.
Big
Okay, I'm
time.
going to turn it off.